Support for gun control has reached its lowest point in a decade.
What are we gonna do? Well, we're gonna reinvigorate more support for more gun control, of course. That's what we're gonna do.
This is in pursuit of a Mazda heading south on 3 Points Road.
Here's the deal. This came out just the day before yesterday from Chris Saliza from the Counterfeit News Network. Check this out. This is encouraging, and yet at the same time, I don't really believe it because I don't really put any faith or trust in polls. I don't care if it's the Quinnipiac poll. I don't care if it's what are some of these other polls. I don't care, the Pew Research poll. Support for gun control just hit its lowest point in almost a decade. And I could see Chris Saliza saying that. He could see saying it with his shaking head. Support for gun control, support for people control is what it really is. Hits the lowest point in almost a decade. Man, people don't want to be controlled. What's wrong with you people not wanting to be controlled? It's not about gun control. It's about controlling people. They're going to use these euphemisms, lies, emotionalism, and fear-mongering in order to capture the minds of the people and get them not just to consent, but to demand the chains of their own enslavement. In the wake of the 2018 you-know-what and you-know-where Florida, a new generation of teen activists emerged who insisted that the old boom-bust cycle of gun control, people control politics in this country was no more. And I'm sure most of you remember that. Remember they had the campaign March for Our Lives? They should really have called it March Against Our Rights. They were even marching against their own rights. Anybody who's for gun control, which is really people control, is saying, I want politicians to control you and I want politicians to control me. It's not about controlling guns. It's not about controlling inanimate objects. We need to understand that from the get-go. When you have these kids marching, or whoever marching in the streets with these signs going, nobody needs an AR-15, nobody needs an AK-47. What if one day you want that? Well, now you've already begged your political overlords to create a law to bar you from doing that, so that if you do that one day in the future because you live in a high crime area and maybe you need 30 rounds in that magazine, well, now you can't do it because you begged your political overlords to create that law that criminalizes you if you reach out your hand to get that inanimate object to protect you and your family. Gone would be the public's short attention span on the need for more restrictions on gun sales and gun ownership. And in its place would be a sustained campaign to keep the issue of guns, the mass shootings committed with them, front and center in the minds of the people. Almost 4 years on from the incident that some of us on certain platforms can't talk about, however, a familiar cycle has asserted itself. Just 52% of Americans polled now say that the, quote, laws covering the sale of firearms should be stricter than they currently are, the lowest number that Gallup has measured on the question since 2014. I mean, if it's true, that would be a good thing. That would be people going, you know what? I don't want to be controlled. I see through this thing. This isn't about gun control. It's not inanimate object control. You're really trying to control me. And when you try to control me, you're trying to take away my freedoms, and life is tough enough. I want to retain all the freedoms and rights that I have as an individual, but people keep trying to take rights. And I'm not going to march in the streets anymore to beg any political overlord, any psychopath, any parasite to take away more of my rights. That marks a remarkable erosion on the question from just 3 years ago, as the country was still reeling from the 17 people you know what and you know where. At that point, 2/3 of the respondents favored more strict people control laws. In 2019, there were still 64% of the people who told Gallup they wanted the government to control them. That dropped to 57% in 2020 and now 52% in 2021. Some people say it's as low as 47%. As Gallup noted in this release, quote, American support for stricter gun laws has typically risen in the aftermath of high-profile mass shootings and fallen during periods without such events. And so the powers that shouldn't be go, you don't say, huh? So, support for stricter gun laws rises in the aftermath of high-profile mass shootings. And then the mainstream media goes, oh, we can bump that to higher profile. We can get this out to more people so that more people can call for stricter people control laws. Changes in the party occupying the White House may also influence preference for gun laws. Generally, the public favors, check this out, stricter gun laws when Republicans are in office and less strict laws when Democrats are in. It's like, all right, guys, loosen up the restrictions. The Democrats are in control. We might need our guns for this one. Something about this place right here has been different, this lady says. They truly have inspired a nation. There's no question, says Saliza. There is some truth to that statement. Not only did support for stricter people control laws stay higher for more than a year following that particular incident right there, state legislators took unprecedented actions to limit guns. As Pew noted in 2018, quote, this was a year of unparalleled success for the people control movement. Unparalleled success in the people control movement in the United States, across the country, including 14 with Republican governors, enacted 50 new laws. The more laws, just like the founding fathers said, the more laws you have, the less freedoms you have. More laws, less freedoms. Not a good combination. Restricting access to guns, ranging from banning bump stocks, thanks Donald Trump. Oh, and red flag laws, thanks Donald Trump. I don't know, Mike. I take the guns first, due process second. Oh, yeah. Totally not an infringement, right? Especially when you enact these red flag laws from the Trump administration, which were strengthened by the Biden administration. They're working in concert with one another, guys. They're in the same bed together. They don't want you to have rights. They don't want you to have freedoms. They want you to be disempowered. That's what government does. That's who these government psychopaths are. To allowing authorities to temporarily disarm potentially violent people. But at least at the federal level, legislative momentum has been harder to harness. Commemorating the 3-year anniversary of this particular incident right there, this past February, President Joe Biden called on Congress to act. Remember when he said this? He said, I'm calling on Congress to enact common sense gun law reforms. Not calling it gun control right there because they're getting a little bit more slick on this. And it's common sense. So if you don't agree with it, hey, you don't have common sense. Wait a second. You don't want they're also calling it gun safety regulations. You mean you don't want gun safety regulations? You're not for gun safety? Everybody who's rational, reasonable, logical, anybody who has 2 brain cells to rub together and a heart beating in their chest knows that gun safety is a good thing. But when you couch it in terms like gun safety regulations, you're still saying gun control, you're still saying people control, and you're still trying to enact a freedom snatching law. Gun control. It's people control. Let's call it because they call it the gun control movement or the common sense gun reform movement. Let's just call it what it really is: the tyrannical advancement movement or the decimation of rights movement. How about the infringement of freedoms movement? Including requiring background checks on all gun sales, banning assault. There's no such thing, guys, is that right there. And high capacity magazines. I mean, banning them. When you ban them, what have you done? You criminalize all who hold these inanimate objects. Oh, you have a high capacity magazine in your possession? Really? Well, guess what? You're a criminal. You deserve to lose 100% of your freedoms. You deserve to go to jail. You deserve to be fined. You deserve to be economically terrorized, is what they're saying, if you hold something in your possession that political parasites told you not to have. So banning assault weapons, banning high-capacity magazines, and eliminating immunity for gun manufacturers who knowingly put weapons of war on our streets. Just scare everybody. And then everybody starts parroting what the mainstream media said. We don't need weapons of war. Why does my neighbor need a weapon of war? We owe it to all those that we've lost and to those left behind to grieve, to make a change. The time to act is now. While the Democratic-led House passed 2 measures to strengthen background checks, the Senate is not expected to act on either one. Let's think about that for a second. Background checks, that's an infringement check. A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. If you have a background check, you're basically saying, hey, you need to go to the government. The government has not approved you to own that firearm. The government hasn't issued you a permission slip, little boy, little girl. They're your parents. They act as your parents. You don't need a parent. You need to parent yourself. You need to pull up your pants and tighten your belt and be the man or woman that you should be and empower yourself. And anything like a background check that gets in the way of you having a personal protection device is an infringement. So they shouldn't call it a background check system. They should call it an infringement check system. And who brought the infringement check system on board? Wayne LaPierre admitted that he and the NRA did it. They created the bill, they got it passed, and now we have the NICS instant background check system. Thank you, NRA, who says you're for the Second Amendment, but who are decidedly not for the Second Amendment. When you come up with an infringement check system, you're not for the Second Amendment. So this thing keeps on going with the poll numbers and all that kind of stuff, and CNN bemoans the fact that gun control just hit its lowest point in almost a decade, and it's utter nonsense. This is the Quinnipiac poll right here that gives the percentages, and then they give this little chart right here among Republicans, those who lean Republican and those who lean Democrat. And some people say that there should be more strict gun laws than there are today. Some people are going, no, there should be less, and some people are going, nah, it's just about right. You know, the only quote law we need is that which is in concert with natural law, and the only one we need is the one that's already on the books, already written down on the parchment, already under the glass in the Smithsonian Institute. It's the Second Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Any law that comes against that is an infringement. I don't care if you call it gun control law, gun safety measures, gun regulation. I don't care what you're talking about. That is people. Those are people control laws. And when you try to control people, only one group of people has the guns. And that's the political and law enforcement class. Everybody else, they're eked out of that equation. Leave your thoughts about this for the world and the global thought police in the comment section below. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification icon, give it a thumbs up, share it with everybody you know. Don't forget to subscribe to my private email list through my website, highimpactflix.com.